The neon lights of New York flickered in the puddles on the cracked sidewalk. The streets smelled of rain and ambition, two things Daniel Reed knew all too well. Tonight, he wasn't just another face in the crowd. The biting December wind cut through his thin jacket, but Daniel barely noticed. He had learned to survive with nothing, no home, no family, no past worth remembering. Or so he had thought. A group of young elites, dressed in designer suits, stood near the entrance of the Valmont, one of Manhattan's most exclusive lounges. They laughed over champagne, throwing casual glances in Daniel's direction. "Betty's looking for a handout," one scoffed. "Or maybe he used to be someone important," another sneered. "But if you lose everything, does it even matter?" Daniel smirked, but said nothing. They had no idea who he really was, because after tonight, the world would remember his name. He took a step forward, past the velvet ropes, past the doorman who didn't dare stop him. Inside, the air was thick with wealth, golden chandeliers, hushed conversations of billion-dollar deals, and the man who had unknowingly shaped his entire life. Grayson Caldwell. The billionaire. The kingmaker. The man who had spent a lifetime believing he was childless. But tonight, Daniel was about to prove him wrong. Inside the lounge, the unraveling mystery begins. Grayson Caldwell sat at the center of it all, whiskey in hand, commanding the room without a single word. At 60, he was untouchable. Ruthless. A man who built an empire from nothing and trusted no one. His advisors, business partners, and the city's elite surrounded him, hanging onto his every move. And then Daniel spoke. "You've spent your whole life thinking you had no heir." The conversation around the table stopped. Grayson's sharp blue eyes locked onto him, irritation flickering across his face. "Who the hell are you?" Daniel smiled. "Your son." The room fell silent. Laughter erupted from one of the men at the table. "Nice try, kid. You're not the first to come looking for a payday." Grayson, however, didn't laugh. His grip tightened around his glass. "You're lying." Daniel slid something onto the table, a photograph. A young woman, smiling. Grace Monroe. The name alone sent a shockwave through Grayson, because she was the only woman he had ever loved. A woman who had vanished without a trace 25 years ago. Forgotten love? A buried truth? Grayson's world tilted. The memories rushed back. Grace. The wild, beautiful woman who had loved him before the money, before the power. He had asked her to leave with him, to build a life together, but she had refused. She had disappeared. Now, standing before him, was a man with her same sharp gaze. "I don't believe you," Grayson growled, but his voice lacked its usual steel. Daniel leaned in. "Then maybe this will convince you." He placed a worn-out letter on the table. The edges were fragile, the ink slightly smudged, but the words were still clear. A letter from Grace Monroe to Grayson Caldwell. "You will never know him, because men like you destroy everything they love. But he exists. And one day, when he's ready, he'll find you." The blood drained from Grayson's face. The others at the table looked between them, eyes wide. The room felt different now. Because if this was true, if Grayson Caldwell had an heir, then everything was about to change. The rising stakes, enemies in the shadows. The news spread like wildfire. A billionaire heir appearing out of nowhere? The media would devour it. The board of Caldwell Enterprises would panic. Investors would demand proof. And those who stood to inherit Grayson's empire? They would do anything to make sure Daniel never claimed what was his. That night, Daniel received his first warning. A note slipped under his hotel door. No name. No threats. Just a single line. "Leave, or you won't live long enough to prove anything." Daniel smirked. So they were scared. Good. The battle for the truth, the empire at war. Grayson was a man who trusted no one. But something about Daniel was undeniable. DNA tests confirmed it. The blood didn't lie. But claiming his place as heir wouldn't be easy. The wolves circled. For part 2, please subscribe my channel.